Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Leonard Perlmutter. Hi, Leonard. How are you?
Good, Kathy. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, I am so excited to talk to you again because you've got exciting news about what you're doing. And we have lots more we can talk about from your book. And this is the part, the four functions of the mind, because your perspective really could help ground the new energies and the capability for us to transition all these changes. So Leonard, welcome back. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you and a healthy one and a safe
Thank
one.
you. Thank you. Thank you. So in the very back of your book, you have that this month is National Conscience Month.
That's
So
true.
it's every January.
Yes.
So, and we're on the 20th, which is a prestigious, today is 1/20, lots of twos, lots of twos.
Right. Deuce is wild.
Hopefully this year, yeah, good, in a good way.
Yes.
So tell us where do you want to start? Do you want to start talking about the wonderful opportunity people have to participate in National Conscious Month?
Sure.
Want to start there? Okay.
You could. Sure.
Okay.
Well, I founded National Conscience Month 3 years ago. I felt that it was important to explain to people about their conscience because we really never learned about the conscience. We have the notion that the conscience is something that can be or should be called upon in moral decision making, where we have on one shoulder we have an angel and the other shoulder a devil. But that's not really true. It sounds good, but it's much more down to earth and practical. It is the only function of the mind that can make a decision. That's really the take home message. Every single decision that each of us has made in our entire life and will ever make is always made by the conscience. It can be no other way. Now, there are other functions of the mind that you and I have discussed, Kath, namely the ego, senses, and unconscious mind. But even though they're very certain about what their perspective is, they cannot make a decision. That's why they create so much noise in our mind. They're really advisors or lobbyists, and they're so insistent that their suggestions are incorporated into our actions that they create a tremendous amount of noise in the mind. And that is the major challenge for all of us, because when there's so much noise in the mind, the conscience, which is the only function of the mind that can make a decision, can only make one kind of decision, and that is it can only rubber stamp the loudest voice that it can hear.
Wow.
And that means that many, many of our choices are based on faulty concepts.
Right. Right.
However, if each of us can take the time, especially beginning through National Conscience Month this January, to experiment with training and parenting the ego, the senses, and the unconscious mind, to love them and to invite them to make their suggestions so that they can be received, and then train them to be quiet after they present their suggestions. Then, in the quietude of that kind of a mind, the conscience has another possibility. The conscience has the ability to reflect perfect wisdom. We call it super conscious wisdom from the super conscious portion of the mind. This is an intuitive library of wisdom that is within us, that is us having this human experience. And when we can train the ego, senses, and unconscious mind to make their suggestions and then willingly quiet down, the conscience can reflect super conscious wisdom into our conscious mind. So we will know, and will know that we know, the thought to think, the word to speak, and the action to take that will enable us to fulfill the purpose of our lives without pain.
Perfect. Okay, so the super conscious, that was one of my questions I wanted to ask.
Sure.
The super conscious is really source, right?
It is our source. It is
Right.
who we are
Our soul.
at our core.
Okay.
And some people call it the soul, a spark of the divine. But these are just attempts by one human being to communicate something to another human being.
So the longing, so what you're saying is that so I think there's a generation of seekers, and what you're saying, you can find that connection. You don't have to, like, you listen to the Rumi poems or Havi's, and they're longing for soul, they're longing. But what you're saying, by your processes that you teach, you can actually have that connection and be at peace with it rather than at that longing place.
It's always available 24/7. The challenge for everybody is that we have obstacles in the mind that cast dark shadows that do not allow that light of wisdom to come into our conscious mind. And what are these obstacles? These obstacles are our fears, our anger, our selfish desires, anything that separates us from our essential nature. So when I think that I am the body, or I am the mind, or I am the entrepreneur, that's a major, major dilemma for us because we're limited by those faulty concepts. That's why I tell people, even though I have been self-employed as an entrepreneur since 1971, I've been an entrepreneur. I no longer consider myself self-employed because words can trigger us.
Interesting.
And that, for me, that concept, being self-employed, was very heavy. And in many respects, put so much pressure on me to perform creatively, energetically, that it did just the opposite. It was just too much stress and pressure to think that I alone was responsible for all the success that this business could generate. So instead of being self-employed, I became employed by the self.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's also employment in most cases, I think, is service. Yes. Where you're on your divine mission, or who knows what you made a plan of before you came into physical.
Even choosing what to have for breakfast or lunch. In service. I am in service to the body. I am in service to my liver. I am in service to my spleen or my pancreas. You see.
And all of those cells contain love and the awareness of perfection that you are, but our conditioning and our education system and our conditioning have told us something different.
That's right.
Where we're not spectacular beings on a spectacular cutting edge experience to bring more of this co-creation to this sphere of existence. I mean, we really have been dumbed down a lot, our culture.
You
Now,
think?
I don't know. So you studied with a guru,
Yes,
right?
yes, I did.
And you've been very dedicated since 71
Yes,
teaching. So, what are you seeing with this change of because society is changing, people
yes,
are waking up, people are using well, there's still people that are robotic and following all the conditioning, but there's a lot of people, especially in this audience, that are looking for how they get the energy and the delight out of life, not just existing.
yes. Well, uh, the biggest conditioning, the most powerful conditioning on every human being uh, is our thinking process.
Mm-hmm.
We, as human beings, are addicted. Every single one of us has become addicted to certain kinds of thought waves that lead us outside of ourselves into the material world looking for happiness, security, and health. And that is just a dead end because nothing in the material world has any capacity to make us happy, to make us secure, or to bring us health. And so there are two kinds of thought waves. One leads outside, and the mind extrudes our creative energy through the senses to look and smell and taste and listen and touch. Mhm. We're addicted to these thought waves that lead us outside of ourselves.
Right.
But there are other thought waves that lead us inside. And if we can begin to balance that equation so that before we extrude our creative energy outside, if we can learn in a very practical way how to go within and seek within and find the truth within, and then take that truth and serve it externally in every relationship that we have, that is the key to successful living. It has to be a balance, and we have forsaken that. We have become so addicted to this external reality,
Right.
looking outside, engaging all the senses, that we have forgotten how to access our own perfect wisdom at the core of our being.
I believe that most of the people that watch this show are very interested in relationship. And what you're talking about is relationship with yourself. Um, because they're servant leaders, they're very aware and in service to their customers and to their employees. But what you're offering is a perspective and a path to being in service and in divine relationship with yourself.
And you know what's so beautiful, Kathy, is that once we begin experimenting with service to ourself, we realize that everything and everyone is ourself.
That's right.
Even though others might have a different body, a different mind, a different personality, and a different set of habit patterns, every relationship is with ourself. That's why Jesus, speaking as this enlightened Christ yogi, says, what? Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Mhm.
Not because it's a cool idea, but because on the highest level of consciousness, our neighbor with a different body, mind, sense complex is our self.
Yes, yes. I think, and it may just be my experience, but I think that this whole period, which has allowed us to have more time to contemplate, because in most cases people aren't commuting as much, not traveling as much, and they really had a time period to really look at the opportunity to co-create with the universe at a really high level. What you're offering is that it's almost an infrastructure, because what we've been taught, what we were conditioned by our parents, and they meant well, that was what they were taught. They were taught manners and
Mhm.
all of the things that really were so superficial, but it was almost a protection, because if you were different, you might not survive, and that's from our primal roots.
Well, that's right. We have to first and foremost recognize that even though we're human beings, we are also animals, and animals are prone to the herd instinct. So we want to tuck ourselves in. It's very comfortable to tuck ourselves into the center of the herd. We don't want to be on the periphery. We've seen too many of those National Geographic movies of the injured zebra that's being attacked by the mountain lion, right? You don't want to be out on the edge there. That's a very insecure place. Be tucked in. So we have to go along. So we have to just follow the stallion, follow the leader. Well, sometimes that works. A lot of times it doesn't.
Right, right. Well, once you're aware of what does make your heart sing, then it's awfully hard to hide it. And I think people think they're hiding it, but they're not. I mean, everyone knows. Well, I'm sure everyone knew I was different. I thought I was hiding it, but oh well.
Well, why would we want to hide it? We need to because the world needs this light. It doesn't mean that we go around proselytizing, right? We're just modeling. I consider myself simply Johnny Appleseed, the
Yes,
incarnation of Johnny Appleseed. That's my work, to be of
that's
service, planting seeds in the consciousness of other human beings.
perfect, perfect. And again, I totally love that, and I love that you're using ancient. You're basically translating ancient wisdom. I mean, I feel we're going full circle back to the ancient wisdom. The indigenous knew, the ancient, the Tibetans, the Indians. There were so many paths to happiness, and
Mhm.
what we chose was chaos
That's right.
on this path until we don't.
Well, I think that we have to realize that that's normal. It starts with the Big Bang, and that
Okay.
Big Bang extrudes energy out, 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 out. So that evolutionary process is natural.
Okay.
At a certain point in the evolutionary process, however, every human being will at some point recognize that these desires that I have been chasing are hollow.
Yeah.
They're not bringing me what I really want.
Right.
And at that point, when I really believe that this externally oriented evolutionary process is not working for me the way I need it to, I begin the involutionary process of going within, seeking within, finding the truth within, and then taking that truth and bringing it back out into the world in the form of my thoughts, my words, and my actions.
So, Leonard, do you find I'm just going to I'm going to confess. I have not, I'm more in my body now than I've ever been. I think I lived a lot of my life out of my body, could come in and role play, but went back out. And I think are you seeing that too, that people are more working from embodiment? in your work, in your teaching? Are you finding that?
Can you define that?
Well, I think what I my consciousness uh, is able to, I can go to a restaurant and I can tell you what they're saying at all the tables around. So I'm present here, but I'm also expanded. My awareness is expanded. And then it seems like now my awareness wants to be embodied and wants to work through the vehicle more than it ever has.
Well, I think that's the only way that will work for us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just dissipate our creative energy because each of us has a purpose of life. Each of us is in the process of creating a work of art. And the tragedy is that many of us die with the music and that beauty still within us. So the whole concept of yoga is really about union and balance between outer and inner.
Yes.
We are citizens of two worlds simultaneously. We are human beings, these mind, body, sense complex, but we are also spirit, sat, chit, anand. We are an eternal being, pure consciousness, wisdom, bliss, and fullness, having a human experience. And so union and balance is the key. Even in medicine, it's all about homeostasis.
Right.
Why does the body get sick? Because the mind is in conflict, and that conflict projects outer conflict or dis-ease and pain. And if we don't heed the lesson of pain at a low decibel level, what was a small pain, a small dis-ease, becomes a major disease.
So are you seeing more people waking up? I mean, you're teaching online now instead of
Yes,
just in person,
yes.
and you've been teaching for how many years?
I've been teaching for 25 years.
Wow. Okay. So are you seeing a trend of the people being more open to exploration and more excited about the opportunities?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Prior to COVID and prior to the technology of Zoom and all these other platforms where we have access digitally to minds and bodies,
Uh-huh.
uh, as a teacher in a small rural upstate New York town
Uh-huh.
of 1,800 people, we had relatively few students.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, we filled. There's a small city called Albany that's pretty close.
yeah.
But that only has 100,000 people. I mean, it's not huge. In any event, with the COVID and being uh, locked down and quarantined because of that, we had been forced to teach classes online.
That's right.
Now, I always said that this is not a normal business. I'm not selling donuts. I'm not selling hamburgers where there's this tremendous desire for this. So I always said as an entrepreneur that I am looking for needles in haystacks. But living in rural upstate New York, we only had a small haystack here. But now with the technology, I have access and the teaching has access to more haystacks.
That's right.
And in each
International.
haystack, there are some needles.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm calling soul family, finding each other from all over the world. And there's almost this recognition of similar mind view
Yes.
or similar delight in what is.
Yes.
That is the connect the dots. So yeah, so I agree. I actually was a beta tester for Zoom, and my
Oh,
first recording, I just was cleaning up my hard drive, my external hard drive for the new year, and my first videos that I recorded were from 2015.
mm,
So think of what it would have been that version of Zoom couldn't have handled
that's right.
we're doing now. So
That's right.
everything's in divine timing.
That's right. That's right. Well, and so here we are, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, so well, I think this is why we came, is to be here during this time and to help people that as the change is happening and as the old structures are being replaced by new and improved ways of being, that the truth tellers are going to be available to help guide that are worth trusting.
I believe that there is no other way
Yes.
for humanity to save humanity from its foibles and its own ignorance.
Right. Well, I think again that we don't know what each soul chose before they embodied. So there may be some souls that wanted to come to a planet that was ascending and changing and decided to have the experience of not participating. So we can't really say that, but we can reduce the fear that's predominant and the polarity. I mean, the last time you and I talked, there wasn't quite as drastic of seemed to be high emotional state of people that are ever pointing fingers at everybody, which is such a waste of of the creative force.
Well, people are experiencing intense fear,
Yes.
and fear always invites danger and anger, and it's tragic, and yet the more that each of us can purify our own mind of that fear and that anger, because there is only one consciousness,
Right.
the consciousness that is purified of its ignorance in this mind body sense complex changes the consciousness of the planet.
Exactly. And I believe we're getting towards tipping point where there's enough that let's put it this way, we're all antenna, and we can dial it. More and more people are dialing in. That's my
Well,
easy to explain view.
that could be. I don't really analyze it because, to be honest with you, I don't have the time and the energy to analyze it because I'm too busy uh, planting seeds.
That's good. Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my role every day is to bring yesterday and tomorrow into today and bring today into now.
Perfect.
And if I can keep my mind here now and coordinate the ego, senses, and unconscious mind to support the superconscious wisdom of the conscience, then I know, and I know that I know, I will always receive what I need.
The stillness and the that is just delightful.
I'd like to share just
Oh, please.
for the entrepreneurs out there. Uh, now, people think, oh, well, this might be a one-off, or this is just magic or something, but this happens recurringly. So, to be honest with you, I don't make a living speaking like this or teaching meditation to people. I am a professional art dealer. My wife is an artist, and I sell her paintings. And
Ah,
we have done that since 1971. I
okay.
have sold her work. As the only artist. I don't have a stable of artists. It's just her.
Uh-huh.
And that puts us continuously on the razor's edge.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? It means that we have dealt with a tremendous amount of fear,
Oh,
right? Because you never know from one day to the next,
right.
1 week to the next, 1 month to the next, whether any money is coming in. Are you going to sell something? How big a market is that compared to the market for donuts, you see,
Right.
or Kleenex? So, uh, what I have been doing over the years is to begin abandoning this whole notion of being self employed and being employed by the self.
Right.
So it was about 12, 15 years ago. We had not sold a painting in 6 months.
Oh gosh.
6 months. And yet bills came in every day that we had to pay. And we had a retreat scheduled, a small retreat. It was in February for President's Weekend. And we had about 10 people coming. We needed 6 to break even.
Okay.
That and it was a Friday to a Sunday. And as the weekend got close on that Thursday, there was a terrible snowstorm in the Northeast. Everything was shut down, and people were canceling their retreat reservations. So when we went to sleep on Thursday night, we had 3 people who were coming.
Oh,
When we woke up Friday morning, the day that the retreat was going to start in the afternoon, we got a call from 2 women who said, "We lost our power. We're snowed in. We're not going to make it." They canceled. This is Friday morning, the morning of the retreat. There was one man who was coming. In fact, early in the morning, he was already on an airplane from Cleveland.
oh.
So he was coming.
Yeah.
He was not canceling. Okay. What to do? Oh, well, I called as many students as I could find to fill up the classroom to make it seem like a retreat so that it was comfortable and this man was not just isolated.
Right.
And we went through the whole weekend of the retreat. And we serve food here at the house. It's sort of like a bed and breakfast.
Uh-huh.
It's very nice homey atmosphere. In any event, we went through the whole weekend and the retreat was very successful. Even the older students had a wonderful time and learned a great deal.
Uh-huh.
And this man, after the retreat was over, he came up to me to say goodbye. And he said, every time we had a meal up in your living room, which was next to the kitchen, I was just taken with one of the paintings that was on the wall. I said, "Well, thank you very much." And he said, "How much is that painting?"
Oh, perfect.
So now I know that meditators and my students are not necessarily my
Right.
clients
Yes.
for these paintings because they're not inexpensive. So right away, my mind filled with a little guilt.
Yeah.
Because I had to tell this man how much this painting was. I didn't want to offend him.
Yeah.
But I had to be honest with him. This is how I make a living. So I said to him, "The painting that you're interested in is $25,000. He looked at me. He said, "I'll take it."
uh, yeah, you never know.
You never know. This man was the only person coming from Cleveland to come to the retreat, but also he came to give us $25,000.
So great. That's so cool. And I
And
think,
I've never seen the man again.
but the thing is that I love the fact that you were holding it just for one. I think that's when you really know
It's
that
not about numbers. It's just not about
right,
numbers.
right, because you never know who's the right one.
That's right.
Yeah, that's I think when you're in service, and there's no
That's right.
it's in a higher order of things than we can even conceive.
That's right.
Wow.
But that's very comforting to know that there is a higher order. Just to know that there's an order is very comforting. And if I can just tuck myself into that order, which I can through my conscience, it's very comforting and it's very energizing. So it's a little bit analogous to the statement by Mahatma Gandhi, who worked 12, 18 hours a day, month on end. And a reporter from the New York Times asked him once, "Don't you ever get tired? Wouldn't you like to go on a vacation?" And his response was, "I'm always on vacation."
Yes, that's what
How
I
about
mean.
living your life like that?
Yeah. Well, we kind of are. It's when people say, "Are you? When are you going to retire?" It's like, well,
Right.
I'm having too much fun.
That's
Why
right.
would I choose that?
Yes.
That sounds boring.
Yeah.
Although traveling is a great way to learn too. But yeah, so tell us some more about what you're doing for the festivities, because we haven't gotten to really talk about this month, January being Conscious National Conscious Month, and I do want to put your banner up here, which is a way for people to find out more about it. But could you tell us some more about it? Because I think people, when they see you and they're thinking about, oh, okay, I can work on myself, I can learn meditation, I can learn how better to coexist in the world. But what you're doing is you're actually part of your mission is to change education.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
do you
So,
want to talk about that a little bit for us?
sure, that would be very nice. Thank you. Uh, as an integral part of National Conscience Month, we've established a $2,000 scholarship for one high school senior who will be asked, and we're still receiving essays, uh, uh, to write an essay on either how they used their conscience for their benefit or how they did not use their conscience and they experienced some form of pain, but they learned a good lesson. And people are it's open to seniors, high school seniors, and we will announce at the end of the month the winner of the scholarship for higher education.
Okay. And so why I guess I want to go deeper into your interest in changing education. Could you speak to that some more? Because
Sure.
this scholarship is just one aspect of your your contribution.
Well, I can only use myself as an example because that's my experience. On every level of schooling, college, and even postgraduate that I went to, uh, what I was asked to do is only one thing, and that is to memorize
Right.
and to work with my conscious mind to memorize something that I would be tested on. That if I got a good grade, I had a better chance of making more money.
Right.
Well, that's not bad, but it's not enough. We need critical thinking. We need to go beyond just memorization because so much of what we have memorized is all hearsay, you see, unless we substantiate it through experimenting to know what the truth is for ourselves. The highest wisdom is experiential knowledge.
Right.
And so what what we're asking people to do is to experiment and to incorporate the experimenting process and coordinating the four functions of the mind, ego, senses, and unconscious mind, to learn how to support the superconscious wisdom reflected by the conscience. If we can incorporate that into every level of education, then we'll really have something. Then we will have a true culture. We say we have a culture, but really, it's less of a culture
Well,
than a convenience for people.
well, the school system was set up to create um, create laborers for the
Yes,
factory system. So
that's
they
right.
weren't taught. There wasn't anything. There isn't anything in it, well, except in some private schools and in homeschooling,
Yes,
that people are getting a chance to learn how to creative problem solve.
that's
And
right.
so creativity is the gift.
Yes,
That is the thing that you're talking about, connection to super conscious. That's the creative way to exist here. And without that connection and the permission to use it, we can't evolve
that's
to
right.
this next step.
Yes, but we can be subject to the fact that the blind continue to lead the blind.
Right, 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 right,
And that's what happens generation after generation after generation. So it's not that this culture is always wrong. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some wonderful things the culture has to offer, but a lot of it is based on faulty concepts.
right.
And those faulty concepts, when put into action, always brings, first and foremost, inner conflict and then outer conflict, either in the body or in interpersonal relationships.
Okay. So when you're talking about inner contact and inner conflict, are you talking about the shadow, the shadow of the, I don't know, it's a thought form not
That's right.
aligned.
Inner conflict is what? My actions that I have taken in the world, whether they're mental, like thoughts,
Mm-hmm,
or speech, as in
mm-hmm,
words, or physical deeds,
mm-hmm,
when my outer actions conflict with the superconscious wisdom
mm-hmm.
reflected by the conscience, there is a contraction in the mind. That contraction, that conflict, is the mother of all problems, you see,
Yes.
because the contraction that is in my mind, because my outer actions in thought, word, and deed conflict with my inner wisdom, that contraction in the mind that comes about because of that is echoed in the consciousness of every cell of my body.
Perfect.
So my mind is contracted, but so is my liver. And do you think my liver can serve the entire organism efficiently up to its capacity
No.
if it looks like this fist? No, it can't. It has to be relaxed to be able to serve holistically the entire organism. And it's the same with our creativity. It gets locked down. It gets locked down because of inner conflict. My receptors to this creativity from the superconscious mind block rather than facilitate the movement
Right.
of
Right.
the superconscious wisdom.
So hopefully enough people will hear what you're saying and read this great little book.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I don't subscribe to the word hope.
Oh, good. Okay.
For me, it's a trigger
Oh,
because hope, in my experience, hope always contains a subtle fear that
oh,
it might not happen.
okay.
I'm afraid it might not happen. So I hope.
Okay.
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 Uh-huh.
Well, I'm glad. This is fascinating because I think that we're there's people looking for a path out of seeking to finding, and the opportunity. If people have been a seeker, this is. It seems like that chapter can. There's now like a bridge over to the other side where you can.
Yes. And it's a scientific and philosophical bridge. And it's scientific. It doesn't mean that once you step foot on this scientific bridge, you have to give up your common sense. No, you're asked to hold on to your doubting Thomas hat, because every good scientist, every good experimenter has a healthy sense of question and doubt, right? And so we ask ourselves, after we base our outer action on our inner wisdom, and we let go of some old habit like fear and anger or selfish desires that conflict with our conscience, then we have to sit back and look objectively and ask ourselves, how do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? My answer has always been, I feel better.
Yes.
I feel better today, and I'm not a kid anymore, right? We used to be the kids, but now we're not the kids anymore. But I have more energy today. I feel I'm much more creative today. Why? Because I am no longer self-employed. I am employed by the self. And that wisdom of the self is this superconscious mind and wisdom reflected by my conscience.
So you're saying that freedom and the liberation of being who you really are and connecting to that in in on purpose every day can totally, well, it frees up energy so that you can co-create with the universe
The
instead.
universe will conspire to support you.
Yes,
The universe needs you
right.
to be able to be a being of light and truth in the world. And the universe will support that. This is my experience.
Yes. And I also think that when you're talking about shadow work or this work of the conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
that's discordant energy in your system.
That's
And
right.
when you resolve it, whatever you resist persists. So when you resolve it, then you become this continuum of energy that can express itself, and it's delightful and it's playful. It's that's what the when you're out of fear, it's almost like you can make mud pies now.
And even the fear is tickled by that possibility,
Ah,
because it is the destiny for our fear and our anger and our greed to be transformed for a higher purpose.
mhm.
And you see, there's nothing wrong with fear. There's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with greed. But what is it? It's all energy.
That's right.
But when it comes to us in the form that it has been coming, it's a debilitating, contractive, poisonous form of energy. But we learned in fifth grade, although energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it can be transformed. So we, through the process of experimentation and sacrifice of these dark contractions and obstacles that live in our unconscious mind, by giving them up and sacrificing them, that liberates that contractive, debilitating, poisonous energy and automatically transforms it into a healing energy, an increase in our creative capacity, and an expansion of our willpower.
Perfect. Perfect. So I have a question for you because I took a course called Avatar 17, 18 years ago. And one of I think the first two classes, not a course, I took like five of them. And one of I think the first two courses they had processes just to get us back into our feelings, because so many people have stuffed their feelings by following the rules, and they're numb, they're kind of not aware of it. This time period seems like it's bringing those feelings back up. Do you find that in your work, that as you're teaching people that there's a process to get them, that there's a necessary process to get them into their feelings?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And there's tremendous, tremendous, tremendous creative energy in emotions.
Yeah.
The essence of all emotions is love, but it becomes denigrated and changed when I do not know the truth of who I am. When I believe that I am the body and I am the mind, I am my thoughts, I am my personality, that love force in the form of all emotions changes into desire for an object.
Mm.
And when that desire is fulfilled, it brings about what? That love force that was changed into desire. When the desire is fulfilled, it changes into fear that I might now lose what I have.
Oh, wow.
And if that love force would change, which transforms into a desire, is blocked, it then transforms again into anger.
Wow. Wow.
But it's essentially all love. That's why it's so powerful, but not as powerful as pure love.
Wonderful.
So the conscience will explain relationship by relationship, how we can unencumber ourselves and transform this rich resource that we have in the form of fear and anger and selfish desires.
That makes total sense. And that's the opportunity, everyone. The opportunity is to, because Leonard's now teaching online, and you can easily get a copy of his book. It's short, but I'm gonna have to read it again. Already, I've already dog-eared it.
As they say, it's short but sweet.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, and you and I mentioned this before we got on, is that since we're evolving, and these times are just set up perfectly for us to see and react and be triggered and then resolve
Yes.
whatever comes up. So this could be a great book for everyone to have in their library. And then of course then you have Leonard online to
But
be
I
able
want to say something about having that book in your library.
to read it.
There was a better than that,
Oh.
become it.
Oh.
There was a wonderful scene in The Razor's Edge. It was, I think, a 1986 remake of the 1940 version, the Somerset Maugham play, Razor's Edge.
Okay.
And the lead character, Larry, he had been in the army. This is World War I time.
Right.
And he came back from Europe. He had been engaged to a woman who he didn't really love, but her father was a big stockbroker, and he was going to go in and take over the business. But after the war and the loss of so many of his comrades, it tore open uh, uh, this cover of his soul, and he did not get married, and he began looking for the truth, and he wound up on his journey. And this was Bill Murray played this role, which was
Wow.
unique for him, but it was an excellent piece of acting. Anyway, Larry made his way to India finally, and he met a teacher, he met a guru. And the one scene that I'm referring to is Larry is on top of this mountain in the Himalayas. It's cold, it's snowy, and he's in front of this little fire to keep warm, and he had a blanket, and he's reading the book that the guru gave him. And as he finished a page, he would tear it out, ball it up, and put it into the fire so that it would keep him warm.
Oh my gosh.
So, yes, you can get this book, Your Conscience, but what you need to do is you need to experiment on how you can become it, to let go of all of these faulty concepts that are on the hard drive, on your hard drive, so that this wisdom and energy and willpower can come through you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and that's profound. I'll have to watch that movie again.
You should. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Oh,
Yeah, we often before COVID, we would use that as a teaching tool. We would have a dinner and movie series, and we would talk about the yoga science of the movie.
I wish I lived closer, but maybe after all this is over, you can come out and teach
Sure.
out here, because
Right.
there's a wonderful community here that is very open to learning and experimenting with being more.
That would be lovely.
Yes. So thank you so much. I want to make sure everyone knows how to get a hold of you. I'm put in the comments and everything, your
Yes.
website, but
Sure. That's it's AmericanMeditation.org. AmericanMeditation.org.
and we're doing National Conscious Month. It is this month. It's January, so we've got another 10 days, 11 days left of this. So please go to the site and look at what's happening, and try to participate in any way you can, whether it's sharing it or just knowing about it and letting other people know, because this work, you can see we're in a huge time of change, and Leonard's got an overview of a better way for us to cross this journey. So
Can I just share a secret
yes,
before
please.
we
Yes,
close?
yes, please.
January is National Conscience Month. But don't let that fool you. When the calendar turns to February 1st, February becomes National Conscience Month.
So every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every minute, every relationship.
Well, the gift is in the unpacking of all of these fears and these childhood traumas.
Yeah.
Those are all gifts to be unpacked.
It's just energy.
That's right.
And we have access to it. Each of us has access to it.
Yeah.
All we have to do is learn how to dance with it a little better, a little more creatively.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone that's watching, and please share this, and please do yourself a favor and get this book. I think that and meditation practice could be the healthiest thing you could do this year. Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you very, very much.
Bless you. Bless what you do. Thank you. Bye-bye.